for CMC, and I will call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Sykesville Mayor and Town Council meeting. Today is Monday, December 12th, 2022. We will call the meeting to order precisely at 7:01, as I just mentioned. This meeting is also being streamed live to Carroll Media Center's YouTube channel, as well as the town's Facebook, and will be available for playback. We begin our meeting, as we begin all of our meetings, with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A moment of silence, please. Okay, thanks everybody. All right, so we will begin with our first item on the agenda, which is in fact our consent agenda. It includes the reappointment of Michael Johnson to the Historic District Commission for a term expiring in December 2025. It also is to include the approval of the 2023 meeting and holiday schedule for our council and staff. And also is inclusive of 2 meetings minutes, one from November 14 and one from November 2028. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Oh,
In the last meeting minutes,
yes.
the only thing I noticed was, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to email it, when we recognized Chris,
Yes.
they recognized the 2 of us but didn't get Anna in there for recognition, because you recognized Chris too.
Yes.
That was the only thing I noticed.
So we can add that comment. I'm assuming our clerk heard your comment. I know your voice is very weak this evening, Lisa. So with that amendment to the November 28 minutes, is there a motion to approve the entirety of the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, so wait.
Well, first, so moved.
So moved.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so Council President Carter has a motion to approve the consent agenda,
Second.
and that's a second. All in favor? Aye. It doesn't seem that there's anyone else left. All opposed is none, so we unanimously approve the consent agenda. Our next item on the agenda is the unfinished business, and it includes a public hearing to consider, discuss, and act on the adoption of Ordinance number 2022-06, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the Town of Sykesville, amending the Code of the Town of Sykesville, Chapter 180, Zoning, Article 14, Special Provisions, Sections 180-89, Signs. Just give a quick summary on this and turn it over to Joe for any additional comments before we open the public hearing. The council has discussed a desire to establish regulations governing temporary signs in town, specifically within the downtown historic district. And we had that conversation provoked by Councilman Grassley's initiation of it. While discussing these regulations, staff took the opportunity to further modify our current signage standards to remove all content-based regulations, as these types of regulations are no longer constitutional. So I'm glad we took a look. Prior to our adoption of Ordinance 2022-06, which has the purposes of removing content-based regulations from our current sign ordinance and establish rules related to temporary signage, we will first hold a public meeting. The council had a robust discussion and debated the draft of this ordinance when it was presented to us back on November 14. At that time, some council members and I suggested a few minor edits before voting to introduce it and it being presented to the public this evening. Joe, can you let the council know what those requested changes were to the text and confirm that they've all been made?
I can. There was a clarification to specifically the definition of obscene, which is on, I believe it's C8 of the draft. So those changes were made. There was also 2 additional changes to, I guess it's D2B, which just clarifies that the 8-foot minimum, there has got to be an 8-foot minimum clearance height from any public way, and the under that same section under number 6, there was one his/her
Yes.
Designation in there, that needs to be changed to there.
Excellent.
So I will also point out, just since we're talking about those, in the draft that was sent out to council, at least 2 of those changes were not actually made. We did catch those and have made those changes into the draft, and we'll make sure those changes are the ones that actually get signed into the record.
Great, thank you.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance number 2022-06.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilman Grassley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Guroff. All in favor of opening the public hearing?
Aye.
That's all of us unanimously. We have just agreed to open the public hearing at 7:06. So I'll do that. We are now open. However, I see no members of the public present, presuming our treasurer is not, although because he is a resident, I'm not sure if the treasurer has comment to make about this particular ordinance. He defers.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing of ordinance number 2022-06.
Thank you, Councilman Grassley.
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman
Okay.
Guroff. We are now closing the public hearing at 7:07. Thank you. So at this point, let me just read a couple things, and then I think it might be about the only thing that anyone wants to talk about. This is really just for the edification of the public listening in. The purpose of these sign regulations are to encourage the effective use of signs as a means of communication in the town without creating visual clutter or becoming a public nuisance, creating blight, or posing a hazard through unregulated placement. It also intends to maintain and enhance the unique character of our town by maintaining aesthetic, built, and natural environments to create an attractive business climate that fosters economic vitality and sustainability, and to promote pedestrian and vehicular safety, to minimize the possible adverse effects of signs on nearby public and private property, and to enable the fair and consistent enforcement of these regulations. Does the council have any further questions for staff or comments of their own regarding the proposed ordinance before calling for a motion to adopt? No.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2022-06 as presented.
Thank you, Councilman Grassley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Council President Carter. All in favor? Wait, I'm sorry. I have to do this one more time. Is there any need for further debate on that particular motion? No. Thank you. Okay. All in favor of the motion to adopt ordinance number 2022-06, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so unanimously, for those of us that are here this evening, -2, the ordinance for signs number 2022-06 has been adopted. Thank you for everyone's thoughtful comments and discussion on this over the last few meetings. Okay, the next item of business is the public hearing and to consider, discuss, and act on the adoption of ordinance number 2022-08, an ordinance of the council of the town of Sykesville amending chapter 60, brush, grass, weeds, and trees of the code of the town of Sykesville to incorporate changes necessary to designate authority and responsibility for managing public trees and establishing practices governing the planting and care of trees on public property. If we have too many of these, we'll be here all night just reading the title to the ordinances. Just to summarize, the proposed ordinance would formally establish the responsible parties and management practices for trees located on public property. Staff has been working through several steps for the town to obtain our Sustainable Maryland Community designation. One of the optional items that will help us achieve this designation is being recognized as a Tree City USA. This program was established back in 1976 through the Arbor Day Foundation and today includes over 3,600 communities in all 50 states. It was designed to promote urban forests and the environmental benefits they provide, not to mention the positive impact urban forests and street trees have on property values and mental health, as well as physical health. At our 11/28 meeting, which was our previous meeting to this evening's, when this ordinance was introduced, Joe pointed out that the Department of Natural Resources have requirements for obtaining this Tree City USA designation and how Sykesville will achieve these requirements via some current practices combined with the proposed ordinance. Joe, I have the list here in front of us. We all know what those things are. Do you feel the need to repeat the regulations, or would you like me to do that? The requirements, I mean.
If you would like me to, I'm happy to go over
If
that
you're
again.
prepared, let's do that. Thank you.
Let me go back in my notes.
Okay.
We're already over budget for the trees.
So one is obviously the establishment of an ordinance, which is what we're planning to do tonight. The next is to establish either a board or a department that's responsible for those trees. Obviously, within this ordinance, it does establish that the Public Works Department would be in charge of or in control of those. We are required to spend $2 per capita. So again, our population is just under 5,000 or so. We regularly budget over $10,000 a year in tree maintenance. And then, of course, to celebrate Arbor Day. Which, though we haven't done specifically in the past, our Spark Commission does do Earth Day cleanup. So again, we can actually combine those two into one event.
Excellent. And I know a beautiful tree was planted in the restoration of the little Sykes Railway back in, I think it was July. And in conversations that I've had with Department of Natural Resources in Maryland, they made some reference to the need to plant a tree to qualify for the ability or the opportunity for grants related to this designation in the following calendar year. So that having happened already in this calendar year, we've kind of checked the box ahead of time with what we're doing in combination with this evening's presumed adoption. So cool. So there was a lot of discussion 2 weeks ago at our last meeting about public versus private trees and so on. So I just want to go out on a limb and say that passage of this proposed ordinance will not alter our current operations or put any additional burden on our existing staff and volunteers. The ordinance is specific to public trees, meaning that these rules will not affect individual residents and the trees on private property unless a tree on private property is declared a nuisance for public safety, and the nuisance tree or limb is defined here in the ordinance. Prior to calling for a motion to open the public hearing, I just want to reiterate for the public that the council had a robust discussion regarding this draft ordinance back on 11/28, and at that time, some council members and I suggested a few edits. So, as I just said with the last ordinance, before this is open to public hearing, public comment, Joe, could you bring forth to us confirmation that those proposed changes were at least confirm that they've been made, and if there's any that you'd like to highlight?
Sure. So one of the changes that was discussed was the discussion around the certified professional arborist. So there was a reference to that added to 60-16A. So again, it does talk about the Public Works Director or their designee, which includes a certified arborist. As a matter of fact, in that same section, another council member did point out, this was after our meeting, but certainly for our discussion tonight, it does reference the removal of trees that may threaten electrical, telephone, gas, or any other water or sewer line. We'd like to replace telephone with communication.
Oh, very good. That's very good. Yes.
It's a good catch.
Yes.
I won't point out the council member.
Councilman Dyer.
Thank you, Councilman Dyer.
So we did make a change to it's 60-18E, which is the violation of a tree on public property. Specifically on public property, we changed that from a Class C to a Class D municipal infraction. And then the last change that we're going to make is there under violations and penalties, which talks about a Class C municipal infraction. We're just going to end that particular section right after it says Class C municipal infraction and remove where it discusses the actual penalty, because again, you'll just refer back to Class C. That way, in case we ever do change what the classes are, we don't have to come back to this ordinance to do it.
Excellent. That was some forethought as well. Thank you, Joe. So now I will ask for a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance number 2022-08.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman
Second.
Grassley. Thank you, Councilman Dyer. That's a first and a second. And all in favor of opening the public hearing? Aye. None here to be opposed. So that is 7:15 precisely. We open the public hearing. Again, does our treasurer slash resident from the public have any comment?
No comment.
Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you. So that's a first by Councilman Grassley, seconded by Councilwoman Dyer. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. We are closed at There it just turned 7:16. Thank you. All right. So moving forward,
Trees.
does the council have any further questions for staff or comments of their own regarding the proposed ordinance number 2022-08?
Joe, just to confirm, your changes are not in the draft that we see forth here.
Correct.
That the draft that we see forth here is going to be superseded by your changes.
That's right.
Thank you, Council President. Anyone else before I call for a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt ordinance 2022-08 as presented.
Second.
Thank you. So the motion to adopt has been made by Councilwoman Guroff and seconded by Council President Carter. Is there any need to debate, or do the council members wish to make comment to support their forthcoming vote on this motion? Okay, so I'm going to call for a motion. I'm going to read the whole thing so that it's for the record. Sorry. The motion is to adopt ordinance number 2022-08, an ordinance of the Council of the Town of Sykesville amending Chapter 60, brush, grass, weeds, and trees of the Code of the Town of Sykesville to incorporate changes necessary to designate authority and responsibility for managing public trees and establishing practices governing the planting and care of trees on public property. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. The motion to approve ordinance number 2022-08 is unanimously approved. And that brings us to...
We're now a tree city.
We are now a tree city indeed.
Application is pending.
Thank you. Our next item is one of new business.
It would be. Wow.
Our number 7 item on the agenda is a new business item. Consider, discuss, act on the introduction of ordinance number 2022-09, an ordinance of the the ordinance of the Council of the Town of Sykesville, amending Chapter 129, solid waste, of the Code of the Town of Sykesville to update the allowable size of trash and recycle containers. A quick item summary on this is that ordinance number 2022-09 will simply amend the Sykesville Code to accommodate the new trash receptacles, trash and recycling receptacles that were distributed to residents earlier this summer. The town purchased new trash and recycling receptacles for all residences served by the town's Public Works Department. These receptacles were known to be out of compliance with our own town code when purchased, and we knew then that an update would be necessary after distribution occurred. Thus, we are having this conversation this evening. The amendments before you are being proposed to meet these needs. Joe, do you have any other information for us regarding the proposed amendments to Sykesville's Town Code Chapter 129, solid waste?
I wish I had more to say, but it is simply just to do that. It's to update the size requirements.
Excellent. I will begin to my right. Are there any questions for staff or comments of the council members regarding the proposed draft? No.
So I just comment, I appreciate that we have clearly stated that people can also use their own recyclables.
Correct.
So
Excellent.
that there's choice in that.
Yep.
That's good.
Thank you.
No comment.
No comment.
Well, shocker, the mayor has one. So, section 129-10, container specifications, storage of containers. Under their C3, it says trash or recyclable bins. As much as I would appreciate the fact that they would be recycled when they're no longer in service, that should be recycling bins. And then, I have some suggestions regarding C2. So I'll read it for public record. C2 reads, refuse bags made of, well, actually, I should start with, I don't have it in front of me. It says that one of these three, how does it read, you guys?
Residential
One
unit?
of the following specifications.
Yes. One of the following specifications must be met.
Yes.
Okay, so there's C1, C2, and C3. And C2 reads as an option, refuse bags made of heavy multi-ply paper or polyethylene or ethylene copolymer.
Multiply, by the way, is hyphenated, or should be. I just noticed that. Because otherwise it's the word multiply. And
Yes, multiply, even though I read it correctly, there's no.
Yeah, no, in our mind, that's the problem. When you
Yeah.
read it, you automatically correct, and there should be a hyphen there, but.
So we'll throw a hyphen between multi and ply. So refuse bags made of heavy multiply, paper, or polyethylene or ethylene copolymer resin, and designed for outdoor storage of refuse. Bags must be securely tied or sealed to prevent emission of odors, be of a material so liquids and greases will not be able to penetrate through the material, and be of sufficient thickness and strength to contain the solid waste enclosed without tearing or ripping under normal handling. So my concern is that with that being one of the three options, the other two being the town supplied containers or one supplied by the residents or the owner, meeting the specifications of the ordinance. I have three concerns related to this bag option being one of the three ways a person could set out their trash or it be collected. And so I'd actually like to discuss those three things, and then I'm going to propose that we discuss as needed and propose to actually remove that as an option so there's only two options there. The reason why I have concern is eliminating the option for use of bags of any kind, whether it be for prolonged storage outdoors between pickup days and outside of a durable exterior grade receptacle as described in C1, or placed outside of a trash container for just the night before intended trash pickup, will eliminate the potential for attraction of vermin. Mice, raccoons, possum, and such, even bears, which I have yet to hear about one in the town limits, but who knows, can be attracted by the result of something as simple as the bag being overfilled or not being securely tied. Furthermore, the suggestion that bags of particular grade are acceptable for use in lieu of either the town provided receptacle or one of the exterior grade receptacles meeting the required specifications in C1 can be confusing regarding the unwanted use of any bag at all used in the recycling receptacles. So actually having, an option for a bag and no receptacle is separate from not putting any bags in the recycling, but I don't want there to be any confusion because we certainly don't want recycling being collected in a bag.
But this
picked up
says
from a bag.
refuse bag, it doesn't say recycling bag.
Well, this whole thing is about, is
Or
agreed.
either one.
A refuse bag is what you put in it though is my concern. Because this gives us three options to set out your refuse or your recycling the way I believe it's reading right now. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's how I'm interpreting it.
So I know that they do not pick up recycling if you put it in a bag right now.
Right,
So
yes.
So it would eliminate that.
eliminate. But
And then,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, and there's just one other reason why I would like to see C2 go away. Keeping the option of these heavy grade bags as specified in C2 could potentially lend itself to the misinterpretation that a greener alternative like compostable trash bags are not permitted inside either the town provided receptacle or the one in C1. So those are my three concerns related to the second option for receptacles, if you will, for trash and recycling.
So I'm reading this, number 2, because this is just not specifically for recyclables.
Right.
Because I would agree with you, this is for solid waste. And if somebody chooses not to use a trash bin, it will incur vermin. But they might have their hefty cinch sack just sitting out there on the curb. And to refuse that pickup, I'm thinking may cause some issues.
Yeah, I guess I would be in favor of keeping it in the sense that I've seen neighbors with less trash. So we have, in our neighborhood, we have elderly residents who don't have a lot of trash and don't put the bigger, there will just be like one bag, one little bag out. So I don't want to remove that option.
Because I have one bag every 3 weeks, and it goes in my trash. When it gets picked up, it gets dumped. So
No, I hear you. I'm
You're
just
saying-
they
they don't have a smaller receptacle that they use?
no, they just put a little bag out on the corner.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's harder for them to pull a bigger bag. Or
Heavier bag,
you're a
yeah.
heavier, if we're requiring people to put a small bag in a big trash can,
Or a small bag in a small trash can?
or a small bag in a small trash, just the weight wise, I've seen people in our neighborhood do that, and so I wouldn't want to remove that option.
Okay.
And if this was strictly about recycling, I would 100% remove that, because with recycling, you don't need a bag. You don't need that. But if this is also including solid waste, and I do agree with Councilwoman Garoff that some elderly, some whoever limited to their weight lift can't do a big bag.
Okay?
So just to clarify, this is in there right now.
Yes.
Number 2 is.
Correct.
And have we ever, I wish Derek was here, have we ever refused picking up trash?
That wasn't in a container?
Yes. If
But-
it's exceeding the weight.
Right, if it's a bulk pickup scenario, yes, but if it's just a bag of trash, a standard bag of trash sitting by
Yes.
the side of the road, our guys will get it.
We get it, okay. And like, this has been going on since, there's been no, I mean, I am not aware of any report of
Negative consequence.
rats or.
Yeah, vermin will be collectively the word.
Vermin, I guess, yes. I haven't heard anything about that, but,
So this is also like eliminating it being in something perhaps outdoors over the course of more than just the night before is, I guess, also my concern. But I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, that's okay. Yeah, that's a good point, but I think most people are pretty responsible, and I would like to keep it also.
Okay.
I understand that, and I agree. My next door neighbor is by himself, and he will bring out a small bag of trash that, any one of my wife or I, if our kids are home, we generate like 10 times that amount. So I do see the concern, but believe it or not, I kind of went the reverse here. Do we specifically prohibit someone going the reverse, instead of putting it in a trash bag, just lifting the lid and throwing their coffee grounds in? We don't want that. Is that specifically prohibited?
No, I don't believe it is.
And I think it should be. Because if you put it very well, most people are responsible. And if everyone was responsible, that man there wouldn't have a job, but he'd be fine because we wouldn't need him. I'm worried about someone who's going to say, well, I don't have to put it in a trash bag. In fact, I'll just dump it in. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. How do we keep that from happening?
So
'Cause-
are you saying you want everything that's in the trash can in a trash bag?
no, I'm saying I don't want everything, but I don't want things like coffee grounds and mayonnaise just dumped into a big
Yeah.
swill. And I don't know how to do that, is why I was uncharacteristically
What's
quiet.
your concern about it?
My concern is that we'll have a rolling bucket of something that vermin would
Slop.
love to get their slop that vermin would love to get into,
But
because
if it's in those heavy-duty trash cans, I mean, people aren't even touching them because the whole machine just puts them in, so it's not even touching and the lids are permanently on.
I thought our staff did not like that.
Well, again, I mean, certainly we encourage everybody to keep their cans as clean as possible, but
Yes.
at the end of the day, it's trash can.
So if they want to fill it full of mayonnaise on a
We're
July
certainly not
day, we're going to
encouraging
let
it.
them?
We're certainly not encouraging it.
All right.
But at the end of the day, I don't know how you. If somebody did do that, we still have the capability of dumping the can.
Well, I guess, I'm looking for word, and that's the problem. When you start, and I know how hard this is, when you start trying to find every possible permutation, you get into weird, there's even a thing called the Morgan's theorem, where I wound up saying something I didn't mean to because I'm trying to cover every eventuality. But it would be nice to say things like, things that are biological in nature have to be incorporated, enclosed somehow rather than just dumped in. But if we can't do it, we can't do it. So
Mark, I want to add on to that. We are very conscientious about putting trash in bags and then putting it in our big can. But where we have to store our trash cans are in the open with the sun coming in and a week's worth of family supplies of trash.
yum. Aromatic too, huh?
There's been plenty of times that I've taken the trash bin back and I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys need to get paid way more money. Because it's as much as a homeowner is trying to alleviate yuck, you can't. I mean, especially in the summertime, you have flies that get trapped in there, and then there's things that are caused by that. So I don't know with you, how do you incorporate everything without incorporating everything?
Right. I don't want this to be the enemy.
Do trash pickup.
Well, I don't want perfect to be the enemy of good. So if you can't come up with a way of doing that, I agree, we'll have to just let it go. But I don't want our guys to open a lid and go, oh my God.
Yeah, but what's the consequence? I mean,
Yeah, there's no
what's the
consequences.
enforceable?
We're not going to not pick up the trash just because it's not in a bag. I guess is really what the concern here is. We're not gonna skip that house because they just threw all their trash.
And I'm not advocating that, but, you know, see my point. I don't want this to turn into a monster of a thing, but I also don't want our guys to come back with horror stories of, I went to 123, you know, such and such street, and I opened it up, and 3 of my guys puked.
It's been a success story since we've gotten these.
And it has, and I love them. And I even told our town manager, we had a guy in our street who was very pessimistic, didn't like them, you know, change is bad. And a couple of weeks ago, he kind of looked downward and mumbled about how it was a good idea after all.
Excellent. Okay, so at this point, looking for a motion to approve the introduction of Ordinance 2022-09 trash receptacles, amending Chapter 129 solid waste of the Code of the Town of Sykesville as presented, and instruct staff to schedule the public hearing and adoption for January 9, 2023.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Grassley with the motion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Guroff. Do the council members wish to debate this motion prior to me calling for a vote? Okay. So the motion to approve the introduction of ordinance number 2022-09 trash receptacles is on the table. Do I have all ayes?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, so that ordinance number 2022-09 trash receptacles, amending chapter 129 solid waste of the Code of the Town of Sykesville as presented, as well as to instruct staff to schedule a public hearing and adoption for January 9, 2023, passes unanimously. Our next item of new business, item number 8 on the agenda, if you're following along, is to consider, discuss, act on KCI Technologies professional service agreement, townhouse lawn, Sandosky lot, and ADA accessibility. I'm just going to do a quick item summary and then turn this over to Joe. The service agreement will authorize KCI Technologies to begin engineering work on the 3 linked projects, including the redevelopment of the Sandusky parking lot, the townhouse lawn, both the front and side lawns, and an ADA accessible path from Little Sykes Railway Park. And so now I'll turn it over to Joe to describe all of the proposed professional services and the money allotted for it.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, these were, at least 2 of these projects were identified in our strategic plan, along with our comprehensive plan as well. Talking about the redevelopment of the front lawn and side lawn areas to make them more useful green space within town, and the better utilization of 714 Sandusky to expand the parking lot and also remove the building that's currently on site and replace it with at least a potential building site for something that more fits in with the downtown atmosphere. So when we adopted our capital plan for this year, at least those 2 projects were included in there as at least engineering for the Sandusky building, which was roughly $200,000, both the demo and the engineering for that lot. And then for the front lawn, it was identified actually next fiscal year for engineering and then eventually construction of the lawn project. The ADA accessibility piece was actually something that came on after we started looking at these projects, and the town participated in the Patapsco Greenway Trail discussions about how to connect really it's downtown with Freedom Park, or what people know as Freedom Park. So some of that engineering work was taken into consideration when we were evaluating these 2 projects, and it just made good sense to incorporate all 3 of them together, just given how close they all are and how linked they all are. So again, the town had roughly $280,000 within our capital plan that was identified to get the engineering work started for all of this. Now, there were from a couple different sources. The majority of it, or $200,000 of that, was from the strategic demolition grant that the town was awarded last year, and then $80,000 was going to be taken from ARPA funding to supplement that. So when we went to KCI and they gave us their proposal, obviously it's a little bit higher than what we expected, at least just from our preliminary or cursory review of how much money we were going to spend on these. However, I do want to point out that their proposal also does include construction administration, which is not something that immediately is going to happen. So again, just from an engineering standpoint, that's not money that's straight out the door. And with the addition of that ADA trail, there is a pretty significant grade change from where Little Sykes is down to where the Sandosky lot is. So there's a significant amount of geotechnical work that has to happen there to make sure that that trail actually stays on the hillside where we plan on building it. So with all of that taken into consideration, and hopefully to simplify this, is what we've looked at is instead of pulling from several different pieces or several different pots of money, is just to consolidate all of these into one project, or at least one design project, and pull all of the money from the strategic demolition grant that we have. And again, that grant was $750,000, so it'll more than cover what's included in this proposal. And again, it does give us the benefit of being able to not only design all of these projects together, but also gives us a better phasing schedule. So if we're looking at all of these pieces all at the same time, we can figure out exactly where we can start, what could potentially be parsed out, and even grant funded with grants kind of down the road. So again, it's just good to have this entire engineering document sitting and ready for us whenever we want to pull the trigger on the actual construction component. So again, we've looked at it. I've been working with KCI. Obviously, they've been focused more on the Baldwin Drive, Oklahoma Avenue project. That was kind of the number one priority that we were focused on. But on the heels of that project, we'd like to get started on the engineering here as well. So we're ready to make our staff is making the recommendation that we do approve this contract with KCI. With the understanding that all of the funding would actually come from the strategic demolition grant.
Okay, so thank you, Joe. Does that leave anyone with questions for staff?
I thought there were, at one point, didn't we have drawings of the things we were talking about on the town?
Only conceptual.
Conceptual, okay, because I didn't see any in here, so I wasn't sure.
It's basically a pretty picture that we have right now. Obviously, this will bring us to a shovel-ready project, so we'll actually have all the engineering behind that.
Anything from you, Councilman Grant?
Yeah, I got a couple things. Joe, I noticed there's a lot of, at the end of the thing, what this includes, what this doesn't include. Is that just all standard stuff that they...
It is. With all the KCI contracts, there are certain things that we anticipate going into the contract with them. And then again, if something else comes up, they just cover it just in case there's something else we need. They want to make it clear that there's a certain parameter that they're willing to go in this particular contract, and if something else comes up that's outside of that scope, it's going to be an additional cost.
Okay. And I noticed too that they were going to charge for electronic drawings. What is the actual? Do they actually give you a paper drawing of what it is, or they give you an electric?
Yeah, we'll probably get both. I think what they're talking about is if a contractor specifically needs a electronic copy of the physical construction documents that they can go in and actually manipulate, then there's a charge for that.
Okay.
And again, that wouldn't happen until we got to the bid phase of whatever this project ultimately phases out.
Right. And then is there, let's say we get this done and we don't start this project 2 or 3 years down the road, is there limitations on this study that they're going to do? Obviously 10 years is something that would be way too long, but what is a reasonable...
Yeah, if we're only talking a few years, which in all likelihood it will be, even if we sign this contract today, I'm not expecting to have the full, complete engineering documents for at least a year. And again, it could be a little bit sooner than that, just depending on the workload of KCI. But we wouldn't be ready to pull the trigger on that. And I say this knowing full well that we would want to do the Baldwin Drive area and Oklahoma Avenue project first. That project's not even going to kick off until Carroll County does their water and sewer upgrade to Main Street, which we'll talk about during updates. But knowing all of that, we're likely at least a year away from, I don't want to say starting that project, but certainly finishing that project is more than a year away. So we have some time with this. Now, having engineering sitting on a shelf, 10 years is probably a little too long. If it's sitting there for 2 or 3 years, we're probably fine. There's not a lot of new work that would have to go into that when we're ready to bid. But with any project, obviously the longer it sits there, the more you'd want somebody to actually look over those calculations and everything that went into that design, just to make sure it still meets the standard that it was designed to. I'm not anticipating anything changing significantly. We're talking about a parking lot and a front lawn. We're not building a building that has to deal with updated building codes or anything like that. So again, I think we're pretty safe, even if the entire project isn't completed within, say, a 3-year period.
And they're okay giving us support after 2.5, 3 years, building support? They've done that before?
Well, again, they're also our contracted engineer. So
Okay.
I think we could pull that out completely, and I think they would be fine with still working with us whenever we get to that point of being ready to start this project.
And if this project gets done, so it would be ADA compliant from Main Street to Freedom Park?
Correct.
When this
I'm
project.
sorry.
I mean, when the project is done, that's what
I'm sorry, I spoke too soon. It would be ADA compliant from Little Sykes to Main Street, all the way up to Freedom Park, not quite yet, just because there's no improvements being included in this contract past Little Sykes.
Right, okay. But I mean, I think, well, the sidewalks are wide, but I don't know about the steepness. But anyway, okay.
Right.
I mean, I forgot, there's not even a sidewalk to Freedom Park yet, so.
Not quite.
Will be soon.
Whether or not it's ADA or not,
Correct.
I'm not going to make that assumption.
Okay.
And this is all coming out of grants, and we could probably apply for grants when we start.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are pieces of this that we know. The ADA trail is, I don't want to say it's a good candidate for a grant, is basically as far as that'll go. So again, whatever piece of that or however much those construction costs are, we will be actively pursuing grants even while we're going through the design phase. The front lawn area certainly it has some grant potential as well, just given the green space aspect of it. I'm not so sure about a parking lot, what we want to do at 714, but again, there are other avenues that we can continue to pursue even through the design phase for additional construction funding.
Okay. I guess that's it.
Thank you.
I have a question concerning that CIP table that you provided for us. The Sandusky building demo is line item.
Yes.
And then you also have a Sandusky lot improvement, that's a second line item.
Correct.
For the building demo in 2023, it's allotted that $100,000 for that demo. But in 2024, you have an additional $900,000 that's allotted for the demo. What's the difference?
So typically in any kind of construction project, and the demo is a little bit, I don't want to say unique, but I guess it is a little bit unique. But what I always try to do is whatever we think the entire project is going to cost, roughly 10% of that would be engineering. So when you see that smaller number followed by the larger number, it's 10% of the overall project cost that I allocate towards engineering, and then the rest is the actual construction.
Makes sense, thank you.
So really any project you see on that table typically does that. So you'll see a larger number preceded by a smaller number. The smaller number is supposed to be the engineering, the larger number the construction.
Okay, so basically the year before you're doing your engineering part of it, and then the year after the engineering's done, you're actually doing the work. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council President Carter. Councilman Dyer.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I just worry about the future of some things based on.
How gracious certain departments will be with grant funding?
Yes, I'm concerned about grant funding. I mean, we live in tough times, and I worry grant funding might mysteriously dry up, but what do I know?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's still plenty of money to go around from the federal government down to the state and in that particular department, and I've been told there's plenty of funding available for 2024, so, yeah. From DHCD.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you. So with that, I'll repeat Joe/staff's recommendation that we move to approve KCI Technologies Professional Services Agreement dated November 23, 2022 for capital projects including the Townhouse Lawn, Sandusky Building/parking lot, and ADA sidewalk. Is there a motion for such action?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you,
I'll
Councilman
second.
Grassley. Thank you, Councilman Dyer. Any need, before I call for a vote, for debate on this motion?
Did anybody get any input from the two council people who were currently not present?
Regarding
about
this
Yes,
particular item?
I was just wondering.
I have not sought that
Okay.
out, no. I mean, they were all provided with the same documentation we were. No one, I don't think either of them came forward with
Okay,
a comment. It's a good question.
just wondering.
Okay. All right, with that in mind, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion on the table to, I won't read the whole thing, don't worry. The motion on the table to approve KCI Technologies Professional Services Agreement dated November 23, 2022. Please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimously approved.
This is over.
That brings us to announcements and reports. 7:45, somebody's gonna lose a bet. Let me go a little bit more slowly. The next meeting is Monday, January 9th, 2023. We have volunteer opportunities available on the Historic District Commission and Police Auxiliary. Please email town@sykesville.net for more information about volunteering with the town. That brings us to staff updates, and if I may call our treasurer, Craig, the formidable treasurer.
Well dressed.
Look at those suede
treasurer.
shoes.
Red
Red
and
black.
black. It's
Holidays.
Black suede shoes, brown and black suede shoes. Thanks, Craig. We're ready when you are.
Good evening, everybody. At this time, I'd like to present the November Treasurers Report. It's a fairly quiet month. Really not a whole lot went on, which sometimes is a good thing. Currently through November, we're still 285 under budget, which is nice. Revenue-wise, the only thing we really received this month was the portion of the state income tax in the amount of $276,000, which was nice, which obviously is why we're 285 under budget right now. Expense-wise, again, it's pretty quiet. And I'll just jump right into the check register because I know that's some expenses at all. So we'll just go right at vehicle maintenance. And on the check register was Century Ford, you probably saw, for $54.90. That was the water pump replacement on the 2018 Ford Explorer.
4 years, really?
And I guess some other,
4 years old?
yeah, I don't know the miles. I forget, I didn't
It's got
write that
70,000
down.
miles on it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chief, say that one more time?
70,000.
That's not bad.
I mean, as you recall, that reason that category is so much high is because also we had the transmission replacement like last month, which was almost like $9,000. Just not a good year for the vehicles. We're having some bad luck there, unfortunately. Another line item also was building maintenance in the postal office area, which was Roby for $16,000, which was painting and caulking.
We can at least see and appreciate and adore that, unlike a water pump.
Right, exactly. And it is gorgeous. I think the color used for the painting and caulking and all that was good. Other than that, there wasn't really, like I said, a lot of stuff that went on. Unfortunately, next month, some expenses are coming our way, which are going to quickly reduce, at least for the time being, the budget amount, which is the matching contributions for the retirement plan for both the employees and all the ops, which is about $150,000 all told, which you'll see next month. Ouch. Again, I know I promised the audit presentation for December, but
Seriously, Craig.
again, we're gonna have to move that into January, unfortunately.
I'm so disappointed.
Can we have a special meeting next week?
I am promised I'm going to get the draft the end of this week. Promised, and it will definitely go in January. So the two council members that weren't here thinking they were going to get away with it, unfortunately, be
Yep.
with the presentation next month.
Joe, can we have surrogate council members come?
HOV dummies or?
I would be there for that.
It's an important meeting, important presentation.
Other than that, that's all I have to really talk about. Any questions, comments?
I've been trying to be quiet, but I can't. Okay. It's a long time since I was tinkering around in my garage, but $5,489.67. Was there other collateral damage? Because I know
Sure,
water
there were
pump
some
does not.
other items in there that
Major damage, like,
I could easily get the invoice. We can look at it after the meeting.
it's not that I don't trust them, and I certainly trust you, but I'm shocked. And I just, my insatiable curiosity, as you would well guess, is red hot now. Because, really? But I would like to see it, even though I'm not saying they did anything wrong, and I of course trust you, but I am dying of curiosity. So please, I'd like to see it sometime.
Yes, easily.
I mean, if something, for example, all of a sudden everything went crazy, like, oh, well, you cracked you crack something like, the head or the valve cover gasket flew off, the water pump does not cost $54.89.
If I could address that?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a mechanic either, but my understanding is, and this is the second vehicle we've had that happen to, if many may remember, in the other Ford Explorer, the same thing happened. Why it's so expensive is that water pump is located inside the motor. That whole motor has to be taken apart, and you're talking about a significant amount of manpower and time and resources to
Okay,
replace it.
given
So it's
that
not just
explanation,
a
I
part.
don't need to see it, I'm horrified, but yes, I understand. I thought they stopped doing that kind of thing.
What's a 2018, so I'm sure that they have since then.
At one time, you had to remove the engine to replace an oil filter for one high-end performance vehicle, and we all thought that was crazy, but now I understand. Thank you.
It is worthy of knowing, though, whether or not that has been changed, if that design has been changed for future purchases. 'cause
You know I'm gonna research that
I
one.
can Google that.
We don't buy Explorers.
We're kind of moving away from those vehicles.
Yeah.
Say, what's the next vehicle we're looking at? Still another Tesla, or are we the budget we
We have
have
a
this
pickup
year?
truck, that's, the pickup truck was scheduled for current fiscal year, and then another vehicle for next fiscal year that, well, we've accelerated the purchase of that, and that is an electric vehicle, so. They are Fords, but I don't think the water pump's gonna be
Okay,
an
well, I was
issue.
gonna say, probably a lot of the,
Yeah, water pump and that is water pump.
issues.
Actually, a water pump, Teslas do have water pumps.
They do, for the air conditioning? Oh, okay. But I assume it can't be on the block
There
since
won't
there
be
is
a
no block.
huge, right, there won't be a huge combustible engine block to contend with,
No,
yeah.
you just take out the frunk and there it is.
There it is in the front.
Well, there it is.
I'm so close to winning a bet. Do you guys want to keep talking about the water pump? Okay, thank you, Craig. Are there any other questions for the treasurer reports? Regarding the treasurer report for the treasurer? Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Craig.
Thank you, Craig. All right, that brings us to a public safety report. Chief, please. Thank you.
And thank you, Craig, for pointing out all our expenditures at the police department. Maybe next meeting you can pick on public works. Give me a little bit of a break. We're going to talk about the public safety report covering the period November 22nd to December 5th. As you can see, 421 total events, somewhat slow period, with only 6 incident reports during that period. Some of the highlights: 12 assist other agency, 12 community policing events. Foot patrols are still up, 19 of those. Hopefully those will continue, considering the weather, the changes in the weather and so forth. 215 patrol checks, 24 traffic enforcement initiatives. Any questions about any of the 6 incident reports? Right.
Yeah, well, the license plate found as in, it fell off, or was that a stolen that got thrown out? If it's the first one, it happens. If it's the second one, I'm.
This is the only report I didn't read because I said no one will ask me about it. License plate. So I can't tell you, Mark, but I can get that answer for you.
Well, I mean, and you gotta admit, if it's, the bolts came loose.
Why are you missing one?
No, I'm not, but I'd be alarmed, no. Well, coming from where I grew up, license plates would disappear and they'd wind up on cars that you would be very interested in. On the other hand, if someone just didn't tighten them down enough and it fell off and you give back to them, they go out and tighten them again and try harder. So one of them's a crime and one of them's not. If it's the first case, I'm happy.
I think it was just found by someone and it fell off a car and they turned it in.
Then I'm satisfied, but if it's,
So I just have a question about the community policing. Seems like the numbers are going down? Like, it's a trend?
Slightly, I guess. After the last meeting, we talked about the differences in the community policing and the foot patrols. I made that clear so that we're capturing those, separately. So that may be why there's a slight decrease in those, but the officers are still out there and doing that to the best of their ability.
Thank you.
Considering staffing right now.
Yeah. Great. Anything, Council President?
Yep, I'm good.
Councilman Grassley?
No,
No?
good. Thanks,
Okay,
Chief.
Yep. Can I just add real quickly, and I
Yes.
do want you to win the bet.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, actually, this is perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, real quick.
Which way the bet goes, so.
I wanted to let everyone know the town cameras are up and running. They were installed after quite a bit of delay, and actually
Little drama.
bring it up on my phone now, and I can look at least 2 of the cameras. The ones on Main Street are not activated yet. There's yet a slight issue with that. but I've been assured they will be activated here shortly. So all our officers will be able to go on their portable mobile data computers or their phones and look at any of those 4 locations at any time. So that is certainly a force multiplier for us, not to have to always physically be there, be able to look to see, right now I could see if there's somebody in the skate park after hours. So it was a great investment for the town and a great tool for us to use. So I wanted to thank you
And
again
again,
for
for
that.
the edification of the public who might be watching this or will play it back, can you tell them where the locations are of those cameras?
Of course, yeah.
Thank you.
There's one at Cooper Park, there's one at the skate park, and there's 2 on Main Street, which will capture traffic going both directions.
Thank you.
Are the URLs for those protected, or is that a public, can anyone look at those?
Oh, no,
They're properly secured?
right.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Great.
Lastly, our Toys for Tots collection is coming to a close tomorrow, so I just wanted to remind the public, if anybody has any unopened toys, if they would like to drop them at our station in the lobby, we'd be more than happy to deliver those to the central collection point. We're very proud of our efforts this year. I think last year we had, maybe, if you've seen the large boxes, maybe 3/4 of a box full. This year we have a box and a half.
Wonderful.
So there'll be a lot of happy kids that otherwise wouldn't have toys on Christmas, thanks to this effort. So I wanted to thank Corporal Slayer for heading this up for us, and it's a great program.
It's a wonderful community policing idea, for sure.
I agree.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you, Mayor.
All right.
Chief, with that, next year, I'm assuming that you're gonna be doing Toys for Tots?
Yeah, this was the second year. As you know, we switched from what we had done in the past during the holidays with trying to identify a family, and this seems to work
Yeah.
much better, a little easier, and it seems to be well received, and we get a lot of donations this way, so it's.
Can you let us announce it in a meeting like in November?
I meant to say it in the last meeting and I forgot, but it's on our Facebook page, and we
Okay.
try to get the word out there, but it
Those that
absolutely.
don't go to your Facebook page that watch, maybe we
course.
can announce it a little bit sooner for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not for me. Great, thanks, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
What time is it? Well, I guess that brings us to council committee reports. Anyone here at the table have anything to share that would take approximately 4 minutes?
Not 4 minutes, just thanks everyone to the council for showing up and supporting Santa, providing security. It's greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
It was
We
an
enjoyed it.
excellent event, per usual.
Yes. Thank you, and, well, I'll say it here. Thank you, Spark. All right. Anyone else?
I don't have a committee report, but I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday and safe new year, and we will see you back here next year, hopefully with great ideas and moving forward with the town
I love it.
and getting everybody back together.
Yes, I love it. Thank you, Council President.
So I'll help you win your bet here. Aztec America is going off the air on December 31st on our cable. That will affect people who, there are 3 separate channels that will vanish. And don't want to give too much information away because it's private, but we are moving forward with a meeting with a vendor to discuss some technological possibilities and advancements. So we're slowly moving in that direction. And I'd also like to wish everyone a happy holiday season and, more importantly, a safe New Year's. And yes, I agree with you. We need to continue with them in bringing us together and making things work. So I like it.
So my only announcement is more of a repeat or a reminder for those that have already heard it. The town council, well, first, there are 2 not here this evening, but they already know this. Don't forget to go around town and get your eyes out on all of the beautiful decorations. They are popping up everywhere, and town looks very festive. The residential areas for sure. And so that's in prep for our holiday decorating contest, which will be held on Thursday the 22nd. And we'll all be meeting here at 6:30. Is that accurate?
Yep,
Thank you.
that was on the minutes.
On the 22nd, yes, thank you. So, so get your Hanukkah and or Christmas lights up and or whatever it is that you're celebrating, and it has lights and decorations, bring it to us.
Wait, 6 o'clock?
Or coming out, 6:30, yeah. Yeah, you had said 6:30.
Yeah,
was
I
right.
just want to make sure.
6
So
o'clock for you.
if we do our,
I was thinking it, but I didn't say it.
Sorry, I'm sorry,
no,
man.
that's okay. If we do our homework, then we'll kind of have an idea where we're heading and paying particular attention to, and we'll be knocking on some doors. The decorating contest signs will be ready for us before then. So if you get one of those planted in your yard, you have one. Okay. Motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilman Grassley. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so that's the motion to adjourn. Perfect.
Clear.
All in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned at precisely 8 p.m.